Today I'm giving you an update on everything that I've been working on, what I've been knitting and crocheting. So grab a cup of something and let's dive in. Welcome back, friends. My name is Melissa. If you are new here, I am the dyer behind Rising Tide Fiber Company and Mobile Trailer. Today, as mentioned, I'm going to talk about all the things I've been working on. So grab your project, grab your favorite beverage, and let's talk about it. The first thing, as you'll notice behind me, is my Geddy Tee. You will remember that I was just on the very bottom of the ribbing, I think here on the front hem. I have since finished both sides. I do need to block it and weave in ends. Weather's been kind of sporadic here in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States, but we are definitely slowly encroaching into fall. We did have a little bit of a false fall, so I'm hoping the humidity will cut back. When it's not been humid, it's been overcast and kind of drizzly or rainy, so not ideal weather to be laying something outside to quickly dry. But my Geddy Tee is indeed finished. I am very proud of it. If you're unfamiliar, the Geddy Tee is a pattern by Tanis Lavallee of Tanis Fiber Arts. I used 4 colors for my crocheted granny squares. They are all colorways that represent the personalities of my 4 Boston Terriers. And then I chose to hold 2 strands of fingering together because it is a DK weight sweater. I held 2 strands of fingering of my 50% cotton, 50% wool. And this is the Shell colorway. It's a very lightly speckled colorway. To me, it's sort of like a perfect neutral. By holding the 2 strands together, I really didn't have to worry about any kind of pulling of speckles. Not that I was overly concerned. I think there might be a slight band in the middle, but when I'm wearing it, I don't really think anyone will notice. I did choose just regular 75-25 merino nylon for my granny squares. I didn't think it really mattered what I used for that, but because this is a short sleeve sweater, I live in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States, which means if I chose 100% wool, there would be a very small window of time that I could actually wear it. And so I like to get the most use out of my garments because I spend so much time making them. And for me, using 50% cotton and 50% wool wicks sweat and the cotton keeps you cool. So it's perfect not just for early summer or late summer going into that fall, but I can stretch this through fall, spring, and even in the dead of summer if I know that I'm going to spend most of my time in an air-conditioned environment. Think restaurants, that kind of thing. So this was knit, if I remember correctly, primarily on a US 5. It was an extremely quick knit after you crochet your granny squares. So I'm very excited about this one. And I knew last episode where we chatted about my knitting, I was so close to having it done. The other finished object that I have is my traveler's cowl. Now, I have finished my cowl, but I haven't blocked it yet, and I haven't seamed it together either. So I started here. I have a little marker to indicate the corner that I started. So when I last saw you guys, I was here where my little dill pickle, let's see if I can get him to face the camera correctly. My little dill pickle from Charmed and Dangerous. So again, let me find that stitch marker again. I lost it. So I started here. So I was about the halfway mark, and I just really powered through over a couple of evenings. I also have this marker not just to indicate where I started, but also so I know exactly where I'm going to seam the back of. If you're not familiar with the Traveler's Cowl, this pattern is by Andrea Mowry, and you essentially seam it down the back so that you can wear the cowl more bandana style. I know that because I am using 100% superwash wool, this is probably going to grow 20 to 30% in size. There are dimensions in the pattern for me to use. I believe this was knit on a US 6. The colorway I used is my Moon Goddess colorway. I used I'd say 1 3/4 of a skein. So 2 skeins and this is done. Again, I just need to block it and seam it up. And this will make a lovely sample for the truck. It's also, for me, a pretty neutral color. Navy is one of my favorite neutrals, and I wear a lot of pink, as you can probably tell if you watch my channel fairly often. So this will go with a lot of things in my wardrobe. Now, I did finish a pair of socks as well. I'm going to quickly put them on some blockers so you can get a sense of where I was. If you are new here, I had these 2 pairs of socks where I had 1 sock done, but I needed to cast on and do a second sock. And so I did. The first one is my She Put 'Em on the Map sock set. That is a nod to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And so I had the first one done, and it lived on the mobile yarn truck at festivals on display for those sock sets. I then finally casted on a second sock here with my little taco. Again, I think this is from Charmed and Dangerous. I completed the second sock. This is where I was the last time that we chatted, and I have since finished this. I had several doctor's appointments where I could work through it, and then I also I'm back to work as of last week as a teacher, and so last week I had some in-services, so it was a great time to sort of power through feet. So I finished that sock set, and I'm pretty pleased. I have a few samples with this She Put 'Em on the Map colorway because it is a standard color in my lineup on my website. So I don't need this pair of socks as a sample anymore. So they will go in the pile to have their ends woven in so that I can then add them to my sock drawer. It's still summer here, and I hate wearing socks in the summer. I know that my husband prefers it when we wear socks in the house during the summer, just because of like the flooring. Nobody wants sweaty feet with like on nice clean floors, but I don't like wearing socks in the summertime. So I will look forward to wearing those in the fall. The second pair of socks that I finished, I had my Enchanting colorway. Again, 1 sock done, on the truck, on display for when this colorway came out. Again, it's a nod to Taylor Swift. And so I casted on the second sock. The last time we were together, I had just turned my heel. This one has a little ghost on it, hopefully. Yeah, again, from the Littlest Charm Co. Not the Littlest Charm Co. From Charmed and Dangerous. I do have some from Kelsey, but this one is not. So again, doctor's appointments, meetings, and I just powered through the leg. And then I finished up the toe last night, actually. I was I just had like Bravo shows that I was catching up on. I think like Real Housewives of Orange County. And I just kind of powered through that foot and finished up before I went to bed to read. Moving on to whips. So I know that sounds like a lot for projects, but each of these 4 projects that I finished, I was on the ribbing. There's a couple nights. My traveler's cowl, a couple more nights. Socks, a few more afternoons and evenings. It's been a couple of weeks. So my goal was to get those things finished. Now for whips. We can touch on my Fleetwood sweater. So if you have not seen this, the Fleetwood sweater is also by the same designer who designed the Geddy Tee. And I crocheted my granny squares the same time I crocheted my granny squares for my Geddy Tee, so that they would all be done. I figured if I didn't do them, then I might not return and then do this. And then I knit my front panels and connected it all. I talked about this front panel on the last episode of a knitting update podcast. So this piece you regular viewers will have already seen. I'm in love with my color combination. I wanted something different from this because originally my idea was to duplicate the colors, and then I changed my mind. And so the last time I was with you guys, I was only here. You can see with my little watermelon narwhal, again from Charmed and Dangerous. I think that was my July club membership. So cute. So I made a little bit of progress on this. Again, this is easy knitting, but for things like doctor's appointments, it's not quite as easy for me. I don't feel like to take larger pieces. If I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to sit and knit while I'm waiting for something, I'm going to typically take something small, like a sock, something I don't need to reference a pattern, that sort of thing. This is being knit on US 7s or 4.5 millimeter needles. I only have to get this to something like 20 inches. Maybe that sounds like a lot. I could be wrong. Maybe it's 20 centimeters. 20 centimeters probably sounds a lot better. But before I do some shoulder shaping, and then I'll be able to sew the pieces together. I think if I spend a fair amount of time on this, I'll be able to power through this and actually get it done as well, so that then I can seam it together, do the sleeves, do the neck, and then it'll be done and ready for winter. For this one, my granny squares are done in DK weight, again in the same color sequence as my Geddy Tee for the colors for the dogs. But in order for gauge to kind of match, the designer does recommend using a worsted weight for the body of the sweater on this one, whereas this one with the saddle shoulders, matching that gauge wasn't crucial. But these granny squares take up the whole front of your sweater, so it was more critical to have that gauge match, which is why this is done on worsted weight. So actually doing the back of this sweater will go fairly quickly. I just need to actually sit down and do it. I have made little to no progress on my Nightlight shawl. The Nightlight shawl is a recent new pattern by Andrea Mowry. She used Spin Cycle. I have chosen to use, instead of some sort of color changing yarn or long color changing yarn like Spin Cycle, Feeder Book, Yarn Hero, Noro, those kinds of things, I chose to use my own DK weight yarn. The gray is Silver Linings, and then Petal Power. This is a colorway named after one of my dogs, but on the truck, I think because it seems so heavily with black, that I don't think the colorway shines as much in skein form as it does in knitting form. Because when you see it knit up as hats or socks or whatever, it's beautiful. So I wanted this shawl, but I wanted something that was, again, rather neutral. Navy and gray are my favorite neutrals. And I wanted to use this pink because I wear a lot of pink. So I have not gotten much farther than I already had. As you can see, I've only done maybe a half inch, quarter of an inch. I have another little narwhal from Charmed and Dangerous. I think that one's a honeycomb. So not a lot of progress on this. This one requires a bit more thinking just because of the repetitiveness and changing. So I think the colors play beautifully together. My thing is sometimes in the evening, by the time the dogs have kind of settled down, depending upon what my day has been, I've just not been in the mindset to want to think too closely about it. So I would love to have that one done by the end of October for festival season. We'll see if I can hunker down and give it a little bit more love and attention. I do have a couple of new whips. So the first one that I am working on is a half sock set that was from one of my advents from last year. And this was from the Tortured Poets department. And it was I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. So that's what this colorway is. And then this was the mini that I included with it. I had to physically go into a school earlier this week, and I was afraid that I would have difficulty focusing because even though I'm a teacher for 20 years, I have worked from home teaching online. So I haven't had to physically go into a building since before the pandemic for anything. So I was afraid that just the distraction of everything, I should really take a sock. And I wasn't, because I had worked so much on the other two, I decided to cast on my cuff, do a few rows of my color, and then this would be ready to take with me. And I did get a fair amount done. So I had a meeting Tuesday night. I worked a little bit on it. Then I think I have like another inch, and then I'll be ready to cut my main color and switch back to my heel. I'm seriously thinking about bringing this into my standard colorway lineup. I knew when I dyed it last year for my advent, it was a mini skein in the Tortured Poets 24-day advent, but it was also one of my favorite colors, so that's how it ended up in the sock advent. So I knew then that I loved this, but I hadn't actually worked it up to know what it looked like. So I'm thinking about for festival season, dyeing this up and getting it ready for the standard lineup. I could be convinced to bring it into the lineup sooner. I honestly think this would probably make a really pretty sweater without even carrying any mohair or anything. But I did start another pair of socks. And then I was watching Chelsea and Sue of Legacy Fiber Arts, their podcast, and they are doing a kind of crochet along with, I think her name is I don't remember. I want to say Lindsay, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong, of Treehouse Knits. Anyway, they are doing crocheted squares with mini skeins, whether they're from Advent or dyed collections that they've done. They're doing these sort of log cabin moss stitch crocheted squares. I opted, so then that of course made me fall down an entirely different rabbit hole, particularly with having crocheted all these stinking granny squares for these two sweaters, that I went stash diving a bit for Advents from last year. And I had 3. I had my Taylor Swift Tortured Poet, I had my Candyland, and then I was part of a dyers Advent where 24 different dyers dyed mini skeins. We sent them off to one particular dyer, already packaged up, and then she reboxed it and sent them to us. So I actually pulled out my Taylor Swift one, and I decided I'm going to make a granny square blanket. So with 24 granny squares, I will probably do another 24 squares, do 48 squares essentially, and then do a join as you go and add a border. I do have another, so last year was a Taylor Swift Tortured Poets Advent. The year before I did a Taylor Swift Eras Advent. So I haven't quite decided. I may combine the 2 Taylor Swift Advents and make one big blanket out of them, or I might decide to just get a neutral color and then alternate between color and neutral. I don't know, but I have a stack of granny squares. I haven't woven in the ends because I don't weave in ends as I go, but I will say by sticking with one color, you certainly only have 2 ends versus when you change colors. So I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've done 10 squares of the 24 colors. And when I finish, mine are DK weight mini skeins. Now I could use fingering weight. My other Taylor Swift is fingering weight. And I could just hold that double for those squares. I can get a good size square, and then I just have this much left over. This is not enough to get all the way back around. I did try. So I do have little itty bitty scraps. Of course, I won't get rid of them because there's a fair amount of yardage here, just not enough to get a whole nother round. And going through this, I have found more colors. That's kind of the beauty of Advents for me, is it gives me the opportunity to be creative, but not be pigeonholed a ton. And there are a couple colorways, like this is the Albatross, which Albatross had already been added to my standard lineup. And because I knew that it was beautiful, and it was a fan favorite. Like there were people who asked me specifically to bring it into the lineup. So I did somewhat early. So I love this one. Trying to think, are there any others? Oh, here's what I can do it with a broken heart. Ended up looking like on a DK weight crocheted. It's just beautiful. Like after finishing this square, I really contemplated not making this a square, but making this my connector color because it just kind of incorporates everything. I love it. So I have a feeling as I make my way, I Hate It Here, which is a very popular color on my website, particularly at festivals. People are really drawn to this color. I don't know if it's actually the color that they're drawn to or the title or the name of the yarn, because it's called I Hate It Here, which for some people is quite appropriate right now. So this looks beautiful too as a crocheted square. And when it's in skein form with the pinks and the oranges, I'm never really certain what it's going to look like. When I dyed this, because she references a secret garden in the beginning of that song. That's where my mind led, was creating a colorway that was representative of that secret garden. So I would not be surprised if more colorways from this collection find their way into my standard lineup. What I will say is I obviously have 14 more to go. My goal has been to do like one a day. They don't take a ton of time. And so if I spend a couple more weeks just doing a square a day, then I'll just need to kind of make some decisions of, do I want to go to storage and pull out my bag of my other Taylor Swift, or do I want to kind of alternate with colored block, neutral block, colored block, neutral block, with, and the neutral blocks being the same color as whatever I'm joining it with. There's that thought. But I think I'll lay it out once I get the 24 squares, but I suspect 48 squares is going to be what I need to make a decent size lap throw to have. And so that is everything that I've been working on in the last 2 weeks. To me, it doesn't feel like a lot, but I do recognize last week and this week, I've been back to work. Even though I have done a little bit of knitting, like I said, when I've been in meetings, I know that when students start returning next week, my time will begin to dwindle. I have also started dyeing Advent yarns, so I am spending a little bit more time in the dye studio. So that's a nice transition to get us into what's new with shop news. And so Advent dyeing is underway. So all of those Advents have been pulled from the site. I am right now in the midst of doing Halloween Advent dyeing. The sock sets are already done. I'm in the middle of doing the 31 days, and then I will move on from there to Christmas. So as of right now, everything looks fantastic to get out on time, maybe even, fingers crossed, a little bit ahead of schedule is my hope for the first time ever. And I've started thinking about, what do I want my fall to look like? Obviously, I'm going to finish up my Fleetwood Sweater. I want to finish up my Nightlights shawl. I'll probably do a video talking about some of the things that I'm going to work on. One of those is going to be the Malabrigo cowl. The Malabrigo knit along. That starts September 1st. And I will send out an email. So if you're not on my email list, there'll be links in my description box that you can click on and get yourself added to that. That one starts September 1st. I'll talk more about it in my video that I'm going to do on that. And then the Hohi Fall Knit Along starts September 1st as well. That one runs all the way to, I think, November 30th. And so I am going to also send out an email with some of my favorite Hohi patterns, and I'm going to include a discount code. So I'll share that with you guys here so you can kind of get a head start. But your discount code is going to be Hohi Fall Cowl 2025, and that'll get you 15% off in my shop. If there's something that you want to, knit for Hohi's Knit Along, registration closes for that, I think, August 30th. I'll leave a link down below for details. She has a Ravelry discussion forum that is quite active, but you can sign up to win prizes, all kinds of things. But certainly if you're participating in that, you want to use my yarn maybe you have yarn, but you need to supplement it with like a contrasting color, feel free to use the discount code for that. If you are on the website and let's say you want to make a sweater and you're dying to make it in a particular color, I don't have enough in stock, just shoot me an email, melissa@risingtidefiberco.com. Send me an email letting me know like what you're looking for. I'd be happy to set up a special order if for stock colorways that I normally do. And I'll get you squared away and get that dyed. And since I'm already in the midst of being out there dyeing on a fairly regular basis, I can throw a pan or two of whatever you're looking for in between. That's not a problem. I am not at any shows until the end of October. I am really just kind of focused on the end of October and getting that Frederick Fiber Festival, getting everything stocked and looking wonderful for all of my friends and followers who I will see there. It's one of my most favorite shows. Everyone turns out, has a good time. It's a one-day event, and I love it. Frederick has always been amazing to me. They always treat me well. So I look forward to seeing all of you then. As for life, again, I'm back to work. It has kind of been a slow back to work. I'm in the process of hiring some new teachers for different teaching teams that I lead, but it's a new year. I'm always a little excited. It's bittersweet that the summer ends, but I don't have any income coming in from my full-time job during the summertime. So I do look forward to collecting a regular paycheck in that regard. And it is always nice to, after the burnout of the end of the year, having the summer to kind of recuperate and get back in a great headspace. It's always nice to kind of return, start fresh with students. And I'm just looking forward to hopefully having a really great year this year. And that pretty much covers everything that I've been working on. So go ahead, let me know, what are you up to? Like, is there anything that has inspired you to want to knit it as well? Are you in the middle of a big long-term project like my granny square blanket that I suddenly out of the blue decided to start? If you want to just leave me a pumpkin in the comments to let me know you made it all the way through, that would be fantastic. And until next week, friends, happy knitting!